What an odd breather after Gold Island, huh? Faerie Island is very controversial. Some people love it and others hate it with a passion. I'm not here to tell you to think one way or another, but I'm more so trying to just justify the song's existence in the game and ease some of the tensions between the two fields. To start us off, we got to discuss the bad parts, and what better way to start off than with Boskus. I really wish Boskus was better because when it's at its best it can be straight up OP, but at its worst it is forgettable and just boring. Faerie Island encapsulates both, but also throws in underwhelming as a salad dressing. Boskus ain't bad on this island, but it could have been so much more, and they really underplayed the hand here. It gets third for just being disappointing rather than bad. Want to know what's in the exact same boat but has a reason for placing higher? Mammoth. Everything I said about Boskus is pretty much the same for Mammoth, but with the added bonus of Mammoth being such a good monster on every other island that it being nothing here is just kinda sad. Mammoth is one of, if not the most consistently great monsters in MSM, and it really sucks that this can be considered a bad island for it. Again, not bad, but absolutely bottom 3 because of just how disappointing it actually is. And lastly, to top us off at number 1, we have really the only objectively bad track on the island, that being Clavinet. In a vacuum, the sound is just kinda bland, a climb track and then a decline track. It's really underplaying on the clavinet, which is such a good instrument, but it's excusable because simplicity is sometimes required in a game as complex as MSM. However, once placed in the song, it truly shows how badly it affects things, playing against everything else and just not flowing with the song at all. The melody for that verse is very clean cut, with Platty and Bridget hammering the melody's motif down. Clavinet goes against this motif to do its funny little up and down maneuver, and it doesn't mesh well at all. It's bad because it doesn't go with anything, its sound is boring, and it's an underplay of a great instrument. Dishonorable mentions include the following monsters. Squat is just nothing. It adds very little and it doesn't play often, so people just kind of forget it exists. It's saved by just how amazing the design and animations are though. Zigrab doesn't fit the idea of Faerie Island, and its track is really repetitive. On top of that, the sound font is just bad compared to its old one. Noggin is kinda like Squat, but it's even worse when you consider the fact that it's only unnoticeable because Zigrab destroys it audibly. Flute Fly has been in the game for years, and this being the payoff for it is kind of a letdown. It's not bad, but being this minimal for such an important monster is bad for those who knew of it for years. This is going to be insanely controversial, but hear me out. Our last dishonorable mention is Cantorell. Thematically on the surface, it seems to fit the theme well, but it's also really kinda lame. It's just a mushroom, and all the cool stuff they could have done with that is only implied in bios. The sound is great, but it's also very basic. All in all, the monster is grossly overinflated on quality, and it's not as amazing as some of the later monsters on our list. However, this isn't the last time I'll talk about it, so stick around if you're still displeased. As you can probably tell by now, a lot of the bad monsters on this island aren't actually bad, just disappointing. The song has very little wrong with it monster-wise, and I feel like it kinda gets a bad rep. That being said, what does the best of the island have to offer? Well, let us see. Third best is the highest ranking new monster, Hippity Hop. This magical is oozing personality and its track is inspired and well executed. It's a new take on a percussive vocal that works well in the song in spite of the theming behind being different, and the design is fun and well animated. All in all, Hippity Hop is such a solid idea and execution that it's hard to look past the effort needed to pull it off so well. It isn't the most impressive monster of all time, but it's super inventive for the island. Honestly, we've kinda given this monster a bad rep so far, but it's time to talk about how good it is again, Kana. Kana's melody is a perfect counterbalance to the feel of the song that really makes it different from previous parts. It helps the final part of the song feel like an actual close, and it's just really satisfying. Beyond that, the monster is just voiced beautifully, really getting the monster's personality across while also positively affecting the song. Kana is just great on most islands, and I am excited whenever I see it as a new options. The best monster on Faerie Island is one that will probably place top 3 on pretty much every island it's on: Stog. Like I've said in the past, Stog's sound is simply one of the best ones in the entire game. Its arpeggiated feel and rapid rhythm make it such a pleasing sound to listen to, and I can't get enough of it. The composition, especially this time around, just makes Stog above and beyond because of how well it fits in that verse. The chords are changed subtly, but its impact is massive. And that last part, where it plays a high note at the very end, beautiful. Not much else needs to be said about Stog, because everyone just knows how good it is, so let's just move on. Honorable mentions include the following monsters. Platy is such a good quad, people need to stop hating it so hard. It does its job perfectly, and as a person with Scottish heritage myself, it is in fact a great execution of a bagpipe. The design is insanely creative, especially in how they use the bagpipe's bladder, and the sound may be a low quality sound font, but honestly that just adds to how charming it is. It carries the melody for its verse, but the main thing holding it back from top 3 is that it carries the verse too hard, to the point where the verses sound awful without it. Whimsies have such an amazing, beautiful, and soft voice that they play together perfectly. This performance is so good that I honestly could rate them this high because of it alone. However, they also get the added bonus of being really good in the song, especially when paired with Stog. Drumpler is a snare drum, and this is a folklore song. I don't need to explain why it's so good. Bridget is one of the most unique and beautiful sounding instruments, the kalimba. That alone makes it amazing, and it adds to that by being such a beautifully iconic sound that makes its verse super good. This is kind of weird to do since we haven't really truly done this before, but our last honorable mention is, well, Cantarell. Cantarell is such a cool filter on its voice that I can only describe it as 1920s news reporter, and I just love it. It also has so much personality in both design and animation, despite it being a poor representation of its inspiration. The reason Hippity Hop ranks so much higher is because Hippity Hop is a more realized idea all around, and more original with its execution. Cantarell is just kind of a cool character. And that's Faerie Island for you. Interesting conceptually, but it's just kind of disappointing in a lot of aspects. But here's the thing. That doesn't make it a bad island. There's something you probably noticed, and that's the fact that every single monster on the island was set in one way or another. And the reason I said Cantarell twice was because it's basically the perfect example for what I want to say about Faerie Island. Yes, the island has issues. Yes, Cantarell has issues. Yes, the song isn't what it could have been in both inspiration and execution. Yes, Cantarell isn't what it could have been in both inspiration and execution. But both are still really high quality. People will hate and tear the island apart, but it's not fair to the effort put into it. We need to be subjective when it comes to the island placements in this series, but beyond that, people are allowed to enjoy whatever they want. Faerie Island is my second favorite island in the game, and so this episode was a bit more personal for me because so many people needlessly hate on it. That being said, to end this whole thing off, I gotta reaffirm that I still am going to be subjective in the end. The island's not perfect, it has a lot of flaws. All in all, the major problem with the island is just the fact that while the individual sounds are great, the full song is kind of mediocre. They don't really do a lot with the cool sounds they have. And lastly, the placement on the tier list will not be tied to my own opinion, but instead judgment on the entire structure of the island. So it being my second favorite song in the game will have no impact on its placement. Thank you for indulging me on this kind of mini rant. Alright, Faerie Island. It took us a while to reach a consensus on this because of how controversial Faerie Island is. But considering the high qualities of the song and also the low qualities, Faerie Island is a round cave island in terms of quality. However, it's also different from Cave Island. While Cave Island suffers from insane highs and terrible lows, Faerie Island is more so just decent all around. They're the same in the end, but their reasons are vastly different. Because Faerie Island never reaches those insane highs, but it also doesn't dip into those extreme lows. So, yeah, 6 out of 10. Just above gold.